Hi everyone, it's James Dawson here. I'm here with Melissa Fisher, who's the head mentor of the Commercial Investing Academy and also the founder of Property Inc. Now, Melissa and I have known each other for quite a long time, and Melissa's been in the business for nearly 27 or 30 years and leads an incredible team of commercial investors and other people to deal with her commercial projects. So I know, Melissa, that you've undertaken a huge amount of deals, all sorts of things, everything from strata title, subdivisions, renovations, signage, storage, big and small, and you also mentor and coach students under the banner of Property Inc. So what have you been up to?
Well, just a little bit.
I know you're probably going to ask me what I've been up to since.
I am. So we have known each other for a while now. Time gets away so quickly, doesn't it? A lot that's been going on. The years, they come and go all too quickly. Lots of projects and developments. It's an amazing space to be in, mentoring and coaching others through it. I learned a lot from my time with you when we first met, and a lot has changed over the way. So it's great to be able to pass all of this on to other people as well. In the meantime, I do a little bit of what you do, get out and travel, go and explore the world, see what's going on. Got a couple of trips coming up this year, which is exciting. So there's always something that's keeping me fairly busy.
Yes, I've just got back from Europe. Got back a little bit early, actually. We came back a bit early this year, so it's been pretty cold when we got back, but it's always nice to get home. Yeah, so I've just been doing my normal business, collecting rents.
Now, can't I do that?
Yeah, keeping places looking great, keeping positive. Actually, I think the market's quite positive at the moment, even though the rates are still a little bit high. There's lots of stuff selling and lots of good deals out there. And I noticed, I just read about in the AFO about you buying an airport. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about that.
You want to talk about something different? It was really interesting. So this project was put in front of me by an agent that I deal with quite a bit. Fantastic company, John Castron and his son Lockie. Anyway, he put this in front of me. I'm a pilot. I took it on for pleasure, not so much to go off flying airlines. So it made sense to me when he put it in front of me, a great opportunity to say, well, what do you do with this from a property perspective? And how can this feed into the overall development? What difference does it make? How do we support another industry? So there was a lot to go through. And then there's 350 acres of land with it to actually develop. So you really start looking at 350 acres, that's a lot of land, but what can you actually create? Now you get beyond just our built form and get into the waterways and how we can create great environment and how that feeds back into our developments and what that looks like. So it's an incredible opportunity, to say the least. Working with the family at the moment that is selling it, they are absolutely amazing. Nearly 100 years in that family, that parcel of land. So much history in it, and what that family's done over that period of time to establish it is just incredible. Some of the trees that they've planted by hand way back then and all the other things, it's just, you look at that, there's so much to hold on to actually, keep as a part of a development and maintain some of that history. Like I said, an incredible opportunity, but I can tell you it's a huge team of people behind it. A massive team of people behind this. Yeah, so there's going to be some really premium accommodation out there. It's the gateway to the Yarra Valley. Of course, there'll be wine association, right? There has to be some premium accommodation out there, and a big wellness play on this, which we felt was really important when you're in environments like that, to be able to capitalize on the environment and get people to slow down a little bit and enjoy the space that they're in and look after themselves, all of those things. A lot of paddock to plate. There'll still be some agricultural stuff, a bit of history, a bit of virtual reality. So it's going to be a nice balance between what's happening in the change in business and modern technology, right back to the wellness environmental side.
Wow. One thing you've definitely had a lot of experience in is pulling a really great team together, which I guess is essential in this sort of developments. Oh, that's fantastic. I just look forward to seeing more about that, and you never know.
When we open, you'll have to come down for a little bit of R&D. We say research and development in the wine sector, hospitality sector, right? So,
get someone to fly me down. You never know.
Look at an airport, it's a whole idea of it, right? It's come in and stay, like fly in and immerse into a whole experience. So definitely.
Oh, great, fantastic. One of the elephants in the room with commercial at the moment is that interest rates are still a little bit high. We keep saying, I remember saying to a mate about 3 months ago, oh, surely it's at the top, but it's been hovering, hasn't it? But what's surprising to me, and I'd be interested to hear from you about your students, is that there's still so many deals being done and really quite good deals out there. The Burgess Rawson auction clearance rate's still very high. And so it seems to me like the people who know or have got the money are still buying because they know that we're at this high point of interest rates, and we feel that as well.
I really haven't seen a massive slowdown based off interest rates at all. And I do the fact that you referenced the Burgess Rawson auction rooms. I think we all watch that for the clearance rates to see what's going on. And the cap rates to see how solid they are. So I personally don't see that there's been a detrimental impact at all on the commercial sector of the industry at all. The students are doing well. They're taking on some really good deals. Super impressed with where they're going, what they're learning, but they're factoring it in. You now go over your feasibilities and you say, you can't just factor in the marginal interest rate. We've watched this teetering on. Is it going up? Is it going down? And you hear the variations of, so put a little bit of a buffer in there. That means that when you are strapped for time or something happens, you've got that little bit of a buffer in. You may have to pay a little bit more for money occasionally. So just don't undercut it. Don't make assumptions that you're going to get a 6 or a 7% interest rate at the moment. It's not likely to happen. But the deals out there, there's nothing wrong with the deals that they're taking on or their ability to fund it.
Yeah, and you really got to look at these things minimum sort of 5-year term, haven't you? It's not something you're in and out of in a year or 2 years. Particularly with commercial property, you're building your wealth for the future and your cash flow. So it's got to be long term.
Got to give it consideration from that long-term perspective. And it's a really good point because a lot of people coming in, especially if they've come out of residential, are very much in that it's more fast-paced and it's not. Trust me, it takes longer and you're in it for the long haul. This is all about the income streams and cash flow you get off it. So it's been interesting to see, but I can tell you for a lot of them, and the majority are working with vendors. Vendor finance is a big one at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not, most of the sales that these guys are working with, that all of my guys are working with, are not desperate sales. They're older generation doing a sell down of portfolios and things. They can assist, they can say, yeah, I'm happy to get interest for the next 12 months and get paid at the back end. So you've got to be okay to ask. I always say I'd much rather pay it to the vendor than pay it to the bank.
Oh, that's it.
Why not have the upfront conversation? It makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah,
like to get more money. Like everyone likes to get money, right? So why not offer it to them if they can accommodate it? They generally do. Yeah.
So have you got some examples of some of the deals that a few of the students are doing at the moment, just to flesh those out a little bit?
I know I spoke to you last time about Carrie's deal. So Carrie had bought the little shopping centre. Okay?
That's right.
So it's just amazing to see how she has evolved over that period of time. So we know she got it to $100,000 a year net income reasonably quickly, which gave her a great uplift. So it was quite easy for her. Then there was no desperation behind what had to be done. So she's been doing a few renovations. She's moved one of her tenants from one building over into another. Their business is expanding. So she's just doing a bit of a fit out for them at the moment. Big upgrade, which meant there was dollars associated. But what I will say is her relationships that she built through the first stage with council, and she's best friends with the mayor, and all of these things that she's gone and done, that time that she put in, she's just pulled a couple of $100,000 in grants to do this fit out, to support one of her tenants, it just pays off the time you put into building relationships and creating those great teams. It pays off along the way. So she's absolutely loving it. The tenants there love her, and she's gone on to look at some other incredible deals that she's involved in.
Oh, that's great.
That's well over $2.5 million worth of value to her off less than $1 million spend.
And that's only been, it's been a year or so? How long's that been roughly?
No, she'd be into year 2 now.
Oh, okay. So, but still.
She'll play around. Yeah. Still exceptionally well. It's a great little cash flow for her. That'll bring her in nearly $200,000 a year.
Yeah, incredible.
You can't, those deals, and funnily enough, James, I say there's plenty of them out there. You've got to be prepared to look regional, which she's comfortable in, and she's a metro girl, so she had to get her head around what regional was as well. So phenomenal to see that. Sue Lynn, her whole, what do I want? What's my big why? She wanted to put her kids through private school, and she just wanted the extra money that was coming in from somewhere else to do it. That was in her mind at the time. That was really important. So she worked through a long process of do a feasibility. Yes, it works. No, it doesn't work. Let's negotiate some, to really try and get her head around how the numbers work and get that feel for negotiating. What she had to get to the realization was get out of your own way. Stop doing this to not let it happen. It's the fear behind it. And a lot of people start from that perspective. She settled on a deal up in Geraldton, an industrial deal, where she had to negotiate over a period of time with the owner, who then became the tenant. The challenges that brings up. Yeah. A lot of conversation. It did her the world of good. She was in amongst it. She had to work with him at a very different level. He loves the business, and the business was exceptionally good. So they negotiated the price down, but also negotiated the rent down. It was at that point that it was real, that when it sat in the market, it was genuine from a lease perspective and a value perspective. Because albeit they had a high lease, they also had a high value on it. So it's not stacking up with value as their challenge. Lease, right? So people can look at a lease and say, have I just increased the lease? And you're saying, until a valuer looks at it and says, that's nice, but it's not real. So so she had to work through all of that. She ended up with a beautiful deal. She bought in at a 9% return. So a 9% yield. Was very happy with it. Got a substantial amount more than her $40,000 a year she needed for her kids to go to private school. So again, sitting on that, it's a long-term hold for her. And then she went straight into, that was just on the sub $1 million. She went straight into buying an industrial property in Melbourne. Now she's from Perth, and she bought an industrial property in Melbourne. It was a strata deal. It was sell them off individually. The price point, I believe, for her buy-in price point was about $5.5 million. So a slight step up from the sub $1 million deal that she had taken on. And she came up with challenges, as everyone does through doing a deal, where there was a few electrical problems that had to be dealt with. And again, it's about getting out of your own way and speaking to people and understanding what they need as a buyer and what tenants need and what that looks like. They had an auction situation where there was not a bid, not a person at auction.
Wow.
So the highs and the lows that go with that, and yet they sold what they had to sell. They've made very good money out of it. They did exceptionally well. They've still got a couple they're holding in a very good position on that. And she's looking at another state now. She's looking at a shopping centre in another state now. Not only do they get the taste for it, but the learning along the way, the understanding of the negotiations, and then the challenges, they're going to be there. So let's bring up as many possibilities as what could happen up front and already have an idea of how that can play out. But be okay when things aren't perfect, because they never are.
No, for sure.
I know, right? Feasibilities, work with your spreadsheets. One of the big ahas for her, incredible. She was telling me that she was going to have to reduce the price of one of the units she was selling by $50,000 and $50,000. And she's, Mel, I'm really challenged by this because we've been through this and we've negotiated and everyone was happy. And I said to her, can we just check in on your spreadsheet again and tell me what you're going to earn, what you're going to make out of this in the whole scheme of it? What is the number you're going to make overall? And then how much time are we spending on this? What does it actually mean from a big picture perspective? And it was a drop in the ocean. And I said to her, so now let's bring some reality back to what this $50,000 means to you versus what it means to the buyer here, and put some context around things, the consideration here. And she said to me, and she's not by any means a person that's not big at giving, she very much is, but she said, you don't realize at the time some of the small things that you get caught up in and how long you can be caught up in it and the cost of dollars that you're holding. It's just to bring it back to bring context to it. So she starts doing amazing things, and I love the way they learn, what she's taken on, and the change in her and her family is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal to see. And then Julie, Julie was she still is we say the amazing renovator, but she has spent the biggest part of her career in residential renovations. And she's done them in a part of the market, which is great because there's always a need. right? So it was a constant turnover. She'd build a business around it. You start getting staff into a business, and all of a sudden, those $50,000 and $60,000 you were making is getting sucked up in wages and other outgoings, and all of a sudden you're going, I'm working my bum off for what? For nothing. So she very much wanted to be doing something different, and we spoke about commercial, and she said, I love it. But again, it took a little bit to get round to the I love it, and now I'm going to apply this because it's very different to residential. By the time she stepped into it, they went straight into a bit over $1 million deal, negotiated this. $50,000 was what she put into the deal up front. We got to put something in, right? Yeah, $50,000. They borrowed, I think they borrowed 65%, and then they had some private lending for the balance. Right. So we got $50,000 in over $1 million deal. And again, clean up, they took on some office space. It's an industrial yard. They've just negotiated an incredible lease off the back of this with a national tenant, nice long-term lease. This has turned out better than what they could ever have expected value-wise. Now, we look at this and say, can we afford to hold it? Does it cash flow well versus the cap rate now? And what do we do with this? What does the long-term hold look like? So there's the assessment on that end of a deal. Because like I said, the tenancy that went in is very different to what they expected. So it's a different outcome to what they expected to. And that changes what you can actually do moving forward and how you can leverage some of that equity. Super impressed with their ability to negotiate it. They had to deal with some fairly big guys in the game. So you've got to be able to go in there and be confident with what you're doing and the numbers that you're talking. Super impressed. It was her and Debbie. So there was Julie and her partner Shelley and Debbie on this one job. Of course, they took renovation to it. It's what they know, right? There's offices there that they did a little bit of a renovation on and brought them up to speed. Again, a phenomenal deal. And they did that one quite quickly. That was quite a quick turnaround on that. So they took a big breath and they are just negotiating a $10 million deal.
Oh, fantastic.
I remember Julie ringing me saying, Mel, I'm going, what? She said, now let me talk to you about this one. It's a great deal. It's an absolute cracker of a deal. They've all bar got this negotiated into contracts at the moment. So again, they've put the hard yards in up front. They've done a lot of work on what they're going to turn this into, some timeframes around it, funding, because it's a big deal to take on from a funding perspective when you've not done it before. So there's a few hoops to jump through. But they gained the knowledge. They gained the knowledge on that deal, who they had to deal with, the negotiations, the legalities, the leases, all of this. They'd already been through some of these challenges and had to do it once. So it's just an extra zero. Like, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, the process is the same. So again, super impressed with what they've learned and how they just get out there and reapply it and then not get caught up in the same mindset challenges. They've got the structure in place, they've got the disciplines in place. So very impressed with that level. Alison, my corporate lady, God love her. She came out of the corporate world. She is incredible in her space and she's very structured. So she stepped into this and she wanted to replace her income, and she was on a very sizable income in her role. She wanted to replace her income and then ultimately her husband's income as well. That was it. This is what I want to do because I want to take on property. I love it. And they had done a few residential deals. So she had the fundamentals of it, but she had no idea whatsoever about commercial property, full stop. So she came in and she learned very quickly. She is detail orientated. She got the disciplines in place and structure in place herself quite quickly. And then she said to me, Mel, I want to leave my job. I said, okay, let's set that up then. If this is what you want, then she said, yeah, I haven't got enough time. I said, all right, let's structure that in. So I was blown away, the deal she brought to me. A beautiful little shopping centre, 40 tenants. She's got a percentage that's vacant and a lot of them are on short-term leases. So it's now renegotiating leases. Long-term tenants, just lazy management, haven't kept the leases paid, haven't bought leases up to market rent, all of this. Some great uplift in there, some very good uplift in there. Now she's taking on the lease side of things and bringing in new tenancies. Her first deal, just under $7 million.
Wow, fantastic.
I got to say, some people are comfortable with it, some people are not. I find most of them try and start at under the $1 million
Yeah.
because they're comfortable there. For Alison, she realized it made no difference. She was going to put the same amount of work and effort in, irrelevant to what that number was. The deal had to stack up, though. It was got to make sense. There's got to be the uplifts and everything available in it. So very structured, detail orientated, feasibilities, fantastic. So, well,
Oh, fantastic. Oh,
that actually got her out of a job. She's left her job. She's
wow,
done.
already.
Less than 12 months and she's left a corporate job. Super excited for us. Super excited.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's those sort of things when it's just like sorting out the management stuff. It's like almost a paper development, isn't it? We've had to do it ourselves, change management, change the leases around, suddenly you get quite a big uplift. Oh, fantastic. Now, I know that you've got an event coming up, but remember about 8 years ago, I think you came to the Byron event that I had. That's when actually we first met. I know we'd spoken before then, but I'm just wondering how your deals have changed from then to now, because that was before, I think it was before you did that shopping centre deal with the signage and the air rights and all that. And remember, we had a few days up here in Byron, and I guess the takeaway from me, even running the event with the other people there, was a lot of people think they can do all these deals themselves, but it's just you can't do it. You've got to pull people in to get the knowledge. So yeah, so do you remember all that? Of course,
I remember that event very distinctly, right? It was, and for me, I would say it was a game changer because you're in amongst, you say a lot of people, so it's different conversation. You're having good conversation about what everyone's doing, what they know, what they don't know, which is super supportive. And there's a lot of industry orientation, but you brought people to that event. You brought speakers to that event. So
yeah,
now you're in amongst people that are in the industry that can actually support you. And interestingly enough, Natalie from Burgess Rawson, who does childcare, she was one of the people that you had there, yeah? So I've used her a few times. I've used her a few times. She's great, absolutely fantastic. So it's those things that make a difference at events like that. It's the being around the knowledge, being around the people, and all of a sudden it becomes very real. You're not on your own anymore trying to do it. You're not caught up in what I don't know. It's all there in front of you, and all of a sudden it becomes a very different game. It becomes a very real world. So yes, I remember that. I remember that event very well because it had an incredible impact on me and was definitely a game changer to some of the things that I did. I remember that shopping centre deal, those group of shops, the signage, all of this, like it was yesterday. I'll never forget it because, again, it was another one of those transitional or pivotal points in life where you go, this is why I took it on and this is the outcome and this is everything you learn along the way, right? The realisation that every deal's got its challenges. You work through them, but you work through them a whole lot easier with the right people around you.
and I guess plus meeting the other people, it was only a fairly small group, maybe 20, I don't know, people, but you're meeting all the people from all different walks of life. I think there was some guys there that had extremely high net worth and had a lot of property. Everyone's chatting at the same level, and just the bits and pieces you pick up. For myself, it was fantastic, I can remember. But I looked actually at the highlights. So you had a recent event in Melbourne, and I was looking at the highlights of that. And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how that one went.
That was amazing. So yes, we had that event in April and it was a 4-day event. Absolutely incredible. So it's funny, James, I look at events and the impact of COVID and things, and we get around Zoom and we do various things. As it was about time we all got back in a room because even back at that event, and I said way back then with you, being in a room with people, being able to actually have those conversations and the energy around it makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference. So we're saying it's back in a room and get people together again. So I brought quite a few of my team to that event. I brought some agents and we had architects and engineers and I had lenders. I had various different people from our team that came along and spoke. And that particular event was all based on relationships. It's like relationships play such a big part in everything that we do. And it was very interesting because the whole 4 days was all about those relationships and how they make a difference in our outcomes. Right from being able to build great relationships with agents and get amazing deals, like my airport deal dropped on your table. Like I haven't had to look for a deal in years, right?
Yeah.
It comes off with the relationship building. It's that moment when you need something done, when you've built great relationships with an architect that says, yep, I can do that for you overnight, it won't be a problem. All of these little things. So that event was very much on being able to get people in amongst everyone in the industry. I have access to all of them, right down to some of our lenders, to say, guys, there are different options out there. Let's give consideration to what's available and build some relationships with them, accountants, lawyers, the whole lot. So that was phenomenal. That really put them in amongst who's in the industry that they can have access to.
Yeah.
And then we did the bus trip. All right, there's let's get out on site, let's see what's available. But this played so well into relationships because we had agents coming along, we had developers turned up on one of the sites to talk about the subdivision they were doing and the value in the land and what they expected to go on it and tenancies and all of these things. So again, it became very real. You're now in there, touch it, feel it, see it. You can walk through a property and go, wow. And they were on the market. So they're walking through them, speaking to agents, asking the questions, learning to ask better questions whilst they're there. And that gave us quite a few properties to talk about for the next 2 days, which we workshopped them, we ran numbers, we did some negotiations. I looked at tax side of things, and then they all, like it or not, which I sprung it on some of them. My group of masterminds knew about it, but the rest of them didn't. They had to do this 30-second pitch of themselves, right? I'm now going to go and talk to an agent, or I said, I don't care what the context is. You just step up and do it. Like, really sell your value. And I got to say, I was impressed. I was so impressed. Every single one of them stepped up, and they had to step up at the front of the room and absolutely launched into the value that they were delivering and who they were. And then we got them negotiating these deals. So these are the ones that we went and saw. Let's pull it apart yourselves. Ask the questions. You've got agents here, you've got lenders here, you've got lawyers here. Let's see where your challenges are and work through this, which they did. They all had to come up with a group offer of what they were going to put in on these projects, and they all got rejected at some point. Go back and try again, as it normally happens. No offer gets accepted, no matter how good it is. Come back, try again. Fantastic to see how engaged they all were, but even better for me to see what they went and did afterwards. Because so many off the back of that, they went off and they really undertook new deals. It stepped into different things, a lot more confidence around what they were doing, the conversations they were having. It was incredible. Absolutely loved it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I know that you've got a 4-day event coming up in commercial investing in October. Now that's in Sydney, isn't it?
I thought we'd change it up a little bit because I've done a couple in Melbourne and I've done a lot of bus trips. I know you've been on one. I've done a lot of bus trips. Right? Yeah. And I thought, let's just pop into Sydney and run rampant around Sydney for 4 days and see what.
Have the bus trip as well in Sydney? Oh,
yeah, I can't not do the bus trip. It makes a big difference. So we're doing the same. I'm bringing different people from our team along. See, I've got consultants all over the country. So to say, let's do it in Sydney, we go, okay, so we bring some of the guys in that we use in Sydney. They will have conversation. We're going to get some new people in as well. There'll be big introductions to those on day one, and they'll deliver their impact on the industry and their take on what's happening at the moment. The theme around this one's what's possible. Yeah. It's let's get beyond what's always been and let's give consideration to what's possible. So that'll be really good. We're jumping on the bus on the Friday. We're doing a big bus trip. So we're taking on quite a few different projects, some conversions, some storage, some factories, some office space, some supermarkets, some shopping centres. So there's a lot we're going to see on the bus. Day out on tour. So we'll pull a lot of those deals apart on the road. There'll be big discussions around them. Agents will be there to actually answer questions and take us through properties. Live deals again. So there's nothing like getting out there and doing it live and being able to ask the questions. And then the next 2 days we'll have our team. I've got my development manager and CFO coming along as well. So they'll come and help them with some feasibilities and some sequencing and resequencing of projects and what they really look like and what they don't. And then we'll do the same. We'll work through, what does this look like? Let's negotiate it. Let's work through some real negotiation. So they get that taste and feel for what it's like, in preference to getting in front of someone on their first deal and going, I don't know what to say. I don't know what questions to ask. Right? So that's one of the big challenges I often see with people. They don't know where to start.
Yeah, it's so valuable. And I think just that sort of on the ground in the trenches stuff is so important. People can look at advertisements and play with the numbers and do all that. But I even remember on that bus trip I went on, just meeting a few people and getting their phone numbers. And then you felt like you could text them or ring them about something. It's just so valuable rather than thinking, oh, I better find someone in that area to do this. It's so hard if you haven't been out there on the ground.
Of course it is. Those relationships are invaluable moving forward. You never know when you're going to use them or who it's passed on to, but it's a people game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What are you seeing as the biggest hurdles for your students currently in just getting started with commercial investing?
A lot of what I hear right up front is they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Everyone comes in going, this is what I want. Why? And they're hurdle number one. They don't actually understand what they want themselves and how this can make a difference to them. Okay, so often they're looking at it from the wrong perspective, and they don't know what they don't know. The other biggest challenge, they don't know what questions to ask, and then are very challenged by getting out there and just having those conversations. Some of it's generational, some of it's lack of belief and confidence in self. They're not getting out there and talking to people comes from a lack of understanding how to talk about it, the terminology around it. And not everyone in the industry is as accommodating when it comes down to having a conversation, but most people are. But there seems to be this big fear factor behind. And I can tell you right now, even some incredible agents and stuff, but you put them in front of a lender and say, have a conversation around it, because they don't understand that side of it. So that is a really big challenge, the communication side of it, and the understanding just how to have those conversations and being okay that you don't have to know everything. There's no expectation that you've got to know everything, but getting very solid on what those first round numbers, you talk about the back of the envelope, those first round numbers, what they should be has been a big help to all of them. You look for the big problems. What are the big challenges? They're not that big. It's communication and the fear behind, I don't know enough to have a conversation, and then different perspectives in the industry, and then just a lack of understanding around terminologies and those first round numbers.
It's just making a start. I remember once ringing a valuer just to ask him a question, and he said to me, no one ever rings me. It's quite refreshing. He said, all I do is type things up in forms. And I still talk to that guy. I'll ask him something. And it's just that thing. I thought, wow, okay, what a difference that made. And then I remember when I was talking to some of the people in the group, I was saying, don't hesitate to ring a valuer. Okay, some of them may not want to talk, but others will. And you can find out so much. So I think, it's just a really great takeaway.
Oh, absolutely is. There's nothing better than getting to talk to a person. You're now not second guessing what they've put in an email.
Exactly.
You can have a good fluid conversation with them. Valuers are amazing. They're challenging at times, but having a good conversation, the amount of information you can get out of them that is invaluable to you in a very short period of time. I'm always challenged by why people don't just pick the phone up or go and have a coffee and say, hey, can we have a quick chat around?
Yeah, they're probably dying to get out of the office.
I do the last event, every single one of the speakers, it's just ring me. Just ring me. Like, we're happy to have a conversation. Guys, I didn't plan that. It's how it is, though. It's quite funny, isn't it?
Oh, fantastic. I guess it's been fantastic to chat, Melissa. Now, how can students reach out if they want to book a strategy with the students or potential students, I guess, as well?
Okay.
So how can that happen?
They get to speak to me eventually, but what they need to do is go through my team first, and we'll put a link in this that they can get hold of my team, and they'll go through them. They'll ask a heap of questions, get some details and an understanding of what they need, because we've got multiple products, from the one-on-one coaching and mentoring through to some stuff that we do fortnightly. I do whole portfolio assessments for people. I do strategy sessions on a deal for people. So it's very relative to what they actually need, what they're looking for. My team do a quick first round assessment on what are you looking for, what do you need up front, and then what are you looking for moving forward. And then they book a time in my calendar and we have a chat around what that looks like. So we'll make sure there's a link in amongst this for them to click on and get hold of our team. And certainly
And
have
the link for the boot camp as well. So you'll have a link.
Yeah,
there
we'll
as
put
well.
there for the boot camp. Those tickets will be selling really quickly. So we'll chuck a link in there for the boot camp. I'm super excited to see everyone there. It's going to be an incredible event. I know I'm super excited about it. So it will be an incredible event. So yes, I'll make sure there's access to the last tickets for these guys.
Oh, fantastic. Well, look, I look forward to chatting again soon, and I hope to hear about the airport deal in more depth. And yeah, so it's been great to catch up.
It's always good to catch up. It's always lovely to catch up. I'll keep you posted on how that project's unfolding, and I'll make sure we fly you down into the airport for the opening of the overall development. I might even come up and fly you down myself, James. How's that?
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, it'll be incredible. So thank you so much. It's always good to catch up with you.
Yeah, lovely. And look, I hope it all goes well in October. And I'm actually flying to Lord Howe Island in October sometime. But anyway, yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, then when I'm over the ocean. Cool. All right, great, Melissa. Thank you, and we'll chat soon.
We certainly will. Appreciate your time and enjoy travel.
Thank you.